Alester Crowley, the man who called himself the Beast 666, black magician, drug fiend, sex addict, and traitor to the British people.
I want none of your faint approval or faint dispraise. To hell with Christianity, rationalism, Buddhism. I want blasphemy, murder, rape, revolution, anything bad or good, but straight.
And when Horus found that Isis would not aid him betray Osiris, he plotted with his conspirators to kill our Lord. He took the firebird, the rod, and slew him. This is the first truth, and is the testimony of Baphomet. And a great cry went up to heaven when it was learned that our Lord was dead and would not walk in the garden again. Then brother fell on brother and fought like beasts and slew those they most loved. Even their wives and children were not spared the sword. Much blood was spilt to his name, and the suffering was terrible. So great was the love they had for Osiris. This is the last part of Genesis, the history of the people of Isis, the Nephilim. And the secret remains that men have kept the identity of the goddess hidden, though her signs are everywhere if you have eyes to see them. Here ends the first garden, though this paradise shall come again, for the world goes on forever.
Make this a part of a school system seems to be very interesting. Now, I go back to Egypt, a very colorful country, for certain principles to discuss. In Egypt, the Egyptian was not born a citizen. This is interesting. When you came into the world, you were an Egyptian, but you were not a citizen of Egypt. You might have been born on the steps of the pyramid, but you were still not a citizen. This was because it was deemed that citizenship, mature participation in the labors of the state, required dedication, enlightenment, consecration, and, if necessary, self-sacrifice. Now, children in Egypt, up to around 15, 16 years old, wore a child lock of hair. It kind of hung down over the left eye and down onto the shoulder, a thin lock of hair. And this was called the child lock. And as long as that lock of hair was there, that person was not responsible for knowledge which he did not possess. He could not be blamed for mistakes that he did not know better than to make. But there came a ceremony finally, and in the presence of all concerned, the priests of Thebes and Luxor and Memphis gathered together those who were aspirants to become citizens of Egypt. And they had a great ceremony and convoked the gods and made these young people accept the responsibility of Egyptian citizenship. And from the records we still have of those old times, we get some key to what the instructions were. The first instruction was, you must obey the laws of the gods of Egypt. You must obey the laws of Osiris and Amenhotep. You must obey the laws of the state. Unless you are a true law abider, you cannot be a citizen. You had to be truthful, honest in your weights and measures, kind to those in need, helpful for the forlorn and the sick, forever charitable. And at this point was introduced the great negative confession of the Book of the Dead. When the Egyptian died and went into the other world, they believed in Egypt that he had to answer to the gods of the underworld for his reputation on earth. He had to be able to give a statement that he had kept the 600 rules by which the Egyptians regulated his conduct. Maybe he couldn't keep them all, but he did the best he could. But he was working always under the pressure of being a good person, a dedicated person, and an Egyptian was an individual who could stand out upon all sides and prove that in every way he was trustworthy, honorable, honest, enlightened, and kind. After he had taken all these obligations so far, the little lock of hair was cut off, and the child became a man or a woman, became an Egyptian citizen, having the privileges and rights of a citizen. But without this bond, it could not happen. So let's move this forward into another type of world and see what we have here now. Supposing we had not here a citizenship by birth, but a citizenship by dedication. Supposing instead of being born an American, we went to school, the lower grades, middle school, and finally graduated from high school. At the time of high school graduation, then citizenship would be a matter of consideration. When the American boy or girl decides to go in for a life of government or statesmancraft, they should not be out merely to get money. There should be reasonable wages, proper salary, proper things necessary, but everything should be pointed to the fact that the citizen is a servant of the needs of the people. Now, if we began producing people who at the age of 14 or 15 decided they wanted to be Americans.
This is the Gay Manifesto by Michael Swift, first published in Gay Community News, February 15th through the 21st in 1987. It is also reprinted in the Congressional Record. This is what it states. We shall sodomize your sons, emblems of your feeble masculinity, of your shallow dreams and vulgar lies. We shall seduce them in your schools, in your dormitories, in your gymnasiums, in your locker rooms, in your sports arenas, in your seminaries, in your youth groups, in your movie theater bathrooms, in your army bunkhouses, in your truck stops, in all your male clubs, in your House of Congress, whenever men are with men together. Your sons shall become our minions and do our biddings. They will be recast into our image. All laws banning homosexual activity will be revoked. Instead, legislation shall be passed which engenders love between men. All homosexuals stand together as brothers. We shall triumph only when we present a common face to the vicious heterosexual enemy. If you dare to cry faggot, it states, fairy, queer at us, we will stab you in your cowardly hearts and defile your dead, puny bodies. We will unmask the powerful homosexuals who masquerade as heterosexuals. You will be shocked and frightened when you find that your presidents and their sons, your industrialists, your senators, your mayors, your generals, your athletes, your film stars, your television personalities, your civic leaders, your priests are not the safe, familiar heterosexual figures you assume them to be. We are everywhere. We have infiltrated your ranks. Be careful when you speak of homosexuals because we are always among you. We may be sitting across the desk from you. We may be sleeping in the same bed with you. All churches who condemn us will be closed. Our only gods are handsome young men. For us, too much is not enough. All males who insist on remaining stupidly heterosexual will be tried in homosexual courts of justice and will become invisible men. We shall rewrite history, history filled and debased with your heterosexual lies and distortions. We shall be victorious because we are filled with the ferocious bitterness of the oppressed who have been forced to play seemingly bit parts in your dumb heterosexual shows throughout the age. We too are capable of firing guns and manning the barricades of the ultimate revolution. Tremble, hetero swine, when we appear before you without our masks. Have you heard or read this article before? Why not?
Part of Alester Crowley's so-called sex magic included orgies with little boys whom Crowley molested. Crowley taught that in order for the new eon of Antichrist to be established, he had to initiate the world into homosexuality. Crowley began by implementing many of his homosexual sex magic rituals into a secret order called the OTO. The musical group White Stains named themselves after erotic homosexual poetry written by Alester Crowley, which Crowley grossly entitled White Stain. You're about to see startling evidence that Crowley had as much influence on the world with his sex revolution as he did with the drug revolution. Alester Crowley knew that if he was to establish the new age of Antichrist, he would have to destroy God's design for family, consisting of men and women as husband and wife. Crowley therefore declared in his book Magic Without Tears that family was public enemy number one. Crowley, who was out to destroy the family, said this, quote, "Think what horrid images it evokes from the mind. Not only Victorian, wherever the family has been strong, it has always been an engine of tyranny. Curse them. They are always in the way. To the performance of this work, speaking of the new age, the nearest obstacle and the most obvious is the family." Often seen marching in homosexual parades is a sexually deviant group NAMBLA, some of whose members are associated with the teachings of Alester Crowley. Like Crowley, NAMBLA emphasized homosexual sex, including sex with little boys. NAMBLA actually stands for North American Man-Boy Love Association. Sadly, many homosexuals are preying on the little children. In fact, nearly 60% of homosexuals claim that they were molested by another homosexual while they were children. Crowleyite and founder of the modern gay movement, Harry Hay, is seen here marching in a parade wearing a sign promoting the North American Man-Boy Love Association. Homosexuals have made incredible inroads into the public school systems, even though they themselves cannot have children with their same-sex partners. Project 10, which was based on the skewed statistic of sex researcher Alfred Kinsey, who claimed that 10% of the USA was gay, is still a program that is taught in public schools today as homosexuals seek to recruit among the young and impressionable. Project 10 seeks to get impressionable elementary students to explore possibly latent homosexual tendencies by lying to them and claiming that the basis of Kinsey's statistics that 10% of them are homosexuals and need to accept it, and that children, even infants, were sexual beings who could and in fact should have pleasurable sex with adults. Satanist Alester Crowley would agree. Incredibly, along with Harry Hay, the world's most renowned sex researcher Alfred Kinsey was also influenced by the works of Satanist Alester Crowley.
Alester Crowley declared the death of Christianity. He was to be the new Messiah that would replace the pallid dead Christ.
I believe he was the real thing. He had given himself under demonic control. He was evil.
NAMBLA, some of whose members are associated with the teachings of Alester Crowley. Like Crowley, NAMBLA emphasized homosexual sex, including sex with little boys.
I got raped when I was 11, Twist. I loved it. I loved it.
Oh, because it's just, ooh, Lil Wayne's just too good.
I loved it. I loved it. I ain't never pressed charges. I'm gonna do you like Baby them did me. Yeah. I'll never forget that day. Yeah, no, they was all in the kitchen. I was scared. It was cool. There was about this many niggas and shit, too, in that bit. I never forget the word. Suck Lil Wayne, let dick.
I'm gonna say my chorus. Running to all the dicks, like Forrest. I hate niggas, that's not true. They ask me what block I live on, I said on your dick, between your balls. Okay, I said I'm sucking your dick, your balls in my face like Kobe. Little nigga, I be sucking your dick, y'all don't even know me. Yo, I said I'm sucking on your dick. In prison, I'm the warden. You already know my legs open faster than Jordan. Sucking on the dick fast, I never do it slow. Everybody know because my job is to blow, and my blows is to job. Like I'm sucking on your knob, and I'm sucking on your cock. It's like corn on the cob. Toughies, and my neck shit crazy. I suck your dick, then I really call KD. But lately, I've been sucking dick, and y'all wanna smell? Well, fuck it though. I'ma really let y'all smell. And look, Drake voice. Started from the dick, now I'm here. Yeah. Started from the dick, now I'm sucking on your pubic hair. Started from the dick, now I'm here. Started from the dick, now I'm sucking. Then I grab his nuts.
Bailey then goes on to mention, this is Alester Bailey, that the eye of God is Shiva or Siva, the destroyer. Remember, Shiva is the Indian god who is the equivalent of Osiris. Shiva is also a synonym for Satan. Is it possible that both religions in the inner circle worship the same Lucifer, but that the outer court knows nothing about this? Well, who was Baal? Encyclopedia of Freemasonry. Whenever the Israelites made one of their almost periodical deflections to idolatry, Baal seems to have been their favorite idol. In Tyre, Baal was the sun, Ashtoreth the moon, and so we have all the evidence that they know exactly what they're doing. There is no contradiction here, for Set is the Egyptian devil and Shiva is the Indian god of destruction. Both names, Set and Shiva, are listed in the Satanic Bible as another name for Satan. And Elena Petrovna Blavatsky affirms, now we have to remember that Shiva, Palestinian Baal, or Moloch, and Saturn are identical. Is it possible that both religions serve the same master behind the scenes and that the masses are deceived, just like in Catholicism? Beautiful people who are kept ignorant. And the sincerity of the Muslim duped and misused because they are goyim, catechumens. Elena Petrovna Blavatsky links Set to Satan. Hermes, the god of wisdom, is called Tot Tat Set, Satan. All of these. Ancient Egypt, Set was worshipped under obscene homosexual rituals. And they had temples in which they had these homosexual rituals. For example, the Luxor temple. I have them, but I won't show them. Now, this is an ancient pagan site, the Luxor temple, one of the great relics of past times. Now, here we're going into the entrance, and oops, what's that? That's a mosque. Now, where's that mosque built? You don't mean the mosque is built into the Luxor temple? Is that possible? Well, let's go a little bit closer. Yes, there it is. It's in the Luxor temple. What does that tell you? If you had to build a Christian church today, would you go and choose the ancient pagan temple of Baal and build your church right in it? Yes or no? No. Of course not. But what if the secret religion is really the same old ancient religion of Lucifer worship? Would you then perhaps do it? Perhaps, yes. So there they've done it. It's built into that temple. Amazing. On the ruins. Now let me take you to the temple of Baal, which is in another country, in Lebanon. And there it is. And on the Baal site, which is the same deity, by the way, what is that? That is a Roman Catholic place, a Roman Catholic church. On the same site, there is the cross, there's the temple of Baal. Why build it on the same site? Why have the same rituals? Catholicism does it, Islam does it. Do you think they have an agenda?
I have exposed myself to every form of disease, accident, and violence. I have driven myself to delight in dirty and disgusting debauches, and to devour human excrements and human flesh. I have mastered every mode of my mind, and made myself a morality more severe than any other in the world. 1,000 years from now, the world will be sitting in the sunset of Crowleyanity.